learners of teacher education. This is Professor Amit from Nanak University, Amritsar. Today I'll be talking about one topic under the course Learning and Teaching, and the topic would be models of teaching. Models of teaching is a very interesting topic because this is the topic which helps any teacher to structure his teaching and learning. And unless we understand how to structure our teaching and learning, we cannot really focus on learning outcomes. So today, when I'm talking of learning outcomes, I will try to discuss with you what are the learning outcomes of this basic presentation, video presentation. When we say learning outcomes, we try to define them in terms of learners' performance. So after viewing this video presentation, I suppose, and I'm trying for that, the learners will be able to define the meaning of models of teaching. Learners will be able to tell various types of models of teaching. Learners will be able to describe various components of models of teaching. Learners will definitely would be able to explain basic teaching model which is given by Robert Glaser, and lastly they will be able to explain concept attainment model. These were the learning outcomes which I set for myself for this particular video. So those who are viewing this video will be able to do all those things which I have just explained during this presentation. When we talk of models of teaching refers to two aspects. One is that it ensures certain learning outcomes, and it, for ensuring those learning outcomes, it structures the teaching process. So before we get into the model of teaching, let's try to understand what is the learning process. You must have heard this word many a times, entry behavior, meaning thereby what is the previous knowledge of the learner. When we talk of teacher education courses, we talk of this term entry behavior, but we can quantify this also. For example, I'm teaching rocks, so this topic must be having some learning outcomes, and on the basis of those learning outcomes, I formulate 10 objective type questions, and I administer those questions to my class. And the different students, they perform differently on this test. Maybe somebody is getting 2, maybe somebody is getting 4, 6 marks, 3 marks, 8 marks, like that. So this is their entry behavior. And once I ascertain the entry behavior of all the learners, then I execute what we call teaching. We plan something, and what we plan, we execute that. So anything which I'm going to do in terms of my teaching learning process or interaction with my learners, for ensuring learning outcomes to be delivered, will be teaching. And after teaching is over, again I execute the same 10 questions, objective type questions, to my students. And if somebody was getting 2 in entry behavior, is now getting 8, this is his learning. If somebody was getting 4, now is getting 9, is the result of my teaching. Now this behavior which is getting after my teaching is over, that is known as terminal behavior. So learning basically is terminal behavior minus entry behavior from the point of view of a teacher who wants to ensure that he has achieved the learning outcomes. So I have tried to relate teaching and learning through this presentation. As far as models are concerned, I think all of you understand that model is something which is a miniature form, and not only miniature form of the real thing, but a miniature form which is representative and is helping the student to understand something. So model is something which is miniature representation of a bigger thing, and which is representing the bigger thing and is helping as an understanding. So we have different types of models. Physical model, as you see, a model of Taj Mahal. Maybe sometimes functional model, if we are explaining volcano, so we are showing a working model of volcano, so that is a functional model. Mathematical model, if I am explaining probability, then the formula of probability is a model, mathematical model, which is helping me to understand a complex process of probability. Then you have graphical model. You must have seen, architects preparing the layout of their buildings. Now that is known as a graphical model. When we are trying to make a miniature plan, on the basis of which we are going to construct a bigger platform, and it is on scale. Like, 1 centimeter on the paper will be, say, 1 meter on the ground, like that. So this is graphical model. And last, which I am most concerned today, is conceptual or verbal or teaching model. All these things are more or less of the same category. When I'm saying conceptual model or verbal model or teaching model, one thing which you have to understand from all other models, that this is something which is helping us to understand something. So one thing is that understanding has to be an outcome of model one. And second is that there has to be some kind of problem, and the solution, when we find out the structured solution, that is helping us to understand something, becomes a model. So in teaching also, for example, if I, as a teacher, I face some problem with my students, and I try to prescribe some teaching strategy to help my students to solve their problem. Now that is known as teaching model. This is what has been specified by Joyce C. Weil also. Teaching models are prescriptive teaching strategies designed to accomplish particular teaching goal. So one thing we have to understand is that in models there has to be one objective, and that objective is basically trying to sort out some problem, common problem of the learners. That is known as teaching model. I'll try to explain you, when I'll be explaining concept attainment model and Glazer's model, how different models, they have a common goal, and we are trying to use some prescriptive teaching strategies to accomplish that goal, that makes them strictly a teaching model. Now any model, when is prepared, is, you have to prepare them on certain components. One component is syntax. Every teaching model would have a syntax. When I'm saying syntax, it means what operations are required for the model to function, meaning thereby, in under that boundary of a model, what teacher will do and what he will expect or he will make the learners to do, that activity is known as syntax. Social system, when we are executing one model of teaching, we have to see within that teaching model, what should be the relationship between teacher and student. Will that be friendly? Will that be competitive? Will that be challenging? So we have to find out the relationship, and this models will specify. It's not that, you as teacher, you try to teach the way you want. No, you will teach the way model asks you to teach. So any model specifies what is the relationship between teacher and students. Then principle of reaction, what will be the sequence of activities which will take up between teacher and student, is principle of reaction. And support system, like, what additional equipments do you require when you are teaching through a particular model. This doesn't mean teaching aids. Like teaching aid could be a chart also, it could be a PPT also, it could be a video also. But the what like supports, when we say support system, what does it mean really? That, how you are organizing the content, what kind of situations you are creating on a chart or on a PPT or on a video. So that is more important. This I'll be explaining when I'll be explaining different types of models as well. And lastly, every model would have instructional and nurturant effect. So, instructional effect means the basic objective of the teaching. Every teaching model has an objective. So instructional effect would be that you are able to achieve that objective for which teaching model was meant. And second thing is that, you follow a particular way of teaching through a particular model. So that the way of teaching will help us to understand and acquire some more additional things, which is a byproduct of the way we are teaching. Now that byproduct is known as nurturant, effect. Probably you'll be able to understand more clearly when we'll explain different types of models. The first thing, first model which I'll discuss today in this video presentation would be Glazer's teaching model. Robert Glazer is the author of this basic teaching model. But remember, I explained you various components of a model, and I told you that every model would have a specific objective. But remember, this Glazer's basic model is not attending to any particular teaching objective, which is a prerequisite of being a model. That's why this model is known as basic teaching, like basic teaching model. It will just systematize every teacher to teach very effectively. That's why this is fundamental. This is basic teaching model. Every teacher must know. Now I'm explaining you the syntax of Glazer's basic teaching model. Now, like syntax means like what are the different steps teacher and students are going to follow. Now, first step which teacher is going to follow in basic teaching model as per Glazer's model is formulation of instructional objectives. So I think you must be knowing about the concept of instructional objectives. So before we do anything, we try to understand that this is the topic which I'm going to teach. And on the basis of the content or the syllabus, and on the basis of my experience of dealing with that syllabus, I try to formulate instructional objectives. Like as I just did, before I started my presentation, I said I'll be discussing some learning outcomes. So instructional objectives are just like learning outcomes, more specified. Once we formulate instructional objectives, what we do is we try to determine entry behavior. Now, we formulated objectives and we tried, before I plan, I try to assess at home only when I'm preparing for my lecture. I try to assess what kind of learners do I have. Are they very intelligent learners, or they are moderate, or they are very poor or very slow learners. So I have to assess the entry behavior of my class. And once I have objectives with me, I have understanding of the entry behavior of my learners, then I design the instructional process. Now this is what is known as teaching. So I design my teaching. And not only I design, then I go to my class and implement that planning. So this is the third step in basic Glazer's model. And fourth is I try to assess the performance. This is terminal behavior. So this is all about what Glazer said. And Glazer said one more thing, that this is very important. Like, in teaching model, he says that once you evaluate the performance, this evaluation of performance should give a feedback to whether you formulated appropriate instructional objectives, did you determine entry behavior correctly, or did you design and implement instructional procedure in an appropriate way. If yes, it means your performance was good. If your performance was not good, it means there was something wrong with instructional objectives, formulation of instructional objectives, maybe determination of entry behavior, maybe designing and implementing of instructional procedure. Now, this is the syntax of Glazer's teaching model. And now you can understand that every teacher requires to understand this and to follow this procedure to make their teaching and learning effective. I have not intentionally elaborated different other aspects of components of basic Glazer's teaching model, because in my opinion, it's not a model. So I should not, because all those steps will not be very specific. They will be very general to any teaching way. But second model which we are going to discuss today in this presentation is Bruner's Concept Attainment Model. Now, under this model, you will find that any and everything which I said when I explain what is teaching model, and what are the components of a model, I'll be explaining them, and I'll try to relate with the basic structure of a model there. One thing which we have to understand is that when we are talking of concepts, concepts are everywhere in every subject. There are concepts in geography, there are concepts in physics, there are concepts in chemistry, there are concepts in sociology, there are concepts in English, there are concepts in political science. So in every subject, concepts are there, and concepts are used for reducing complexities of our life. Remember, the basic fundamental of concept formation and concept attainment is categorization. We categorize. For example, I'm a man. There are so many men around, and I as a man and other person as a man, we are different also. Different in terms of color, in terms of physique, in terms of personality, so many other things. But we have some common things. Now, on the basis of common things, we categorize. And when we categorize men, now anybody, there could be crores of men, but we always categorize them for our own convenience, that on the basis of these characteristics somebody is identified as men. Similarly, on these common characteristics, these things are categorized as trees, these are categorized as animals, these are categorized as alcohol, these are categorized like that. So, but remember, within that category there are a lot of differences, and we are ignoring those differences for understanding right now, but we are trying to differentiate one concept from other on the basis of some common parameters. What are the elements of concept? For understanding concept attainment model, there has to be a name. For example, I said men. Now men is a concept, so I have to give a name to it, right? Anybody who is having some common characteristics is considered to be a man. Second thing is examples and non-examples. Now every concept would have examples or non-examples, or positive examples or negative examples, right? For example, if I say Amit is a man, so is a positive example. If I say Deepa, then Deepa is a negative example for me, because I am talking of the concept men, and Deepa is not men, she is woman. So for example, fruit. Now fruit is a concept, right? And when I say mango, mango is a positive example, and when I say a table is a negative example. So when we are talking of some concept, there are some examples of that concept, and there are certain non-examples of that concept. So we have to identify that. And third is attributes. We have essential and we have non-essential attributes. When I say essential, means, for example, I'm talking about fruit. So it has to be juicy. It has to be something which can be eaten, right? Now these are essential things. But price of a fruit, it can vary from time to time and from place to place. So price is non-essential, whereas it is juicy, it can be eaten, it is sweet or sour. All these are essential attributes. So every concept has essential and non-essential attributes. Then there has to be a rule which specifies the basic aspect or those common parameters which makes it a concept, which distinguishes it from some other concept. So these are the four things on the basis of which you have to analyze the concept before you start teaching the concept, right? So this is the fundamental for understanding Bruner's concept attainment model. Now let me come now on all the components of model. That's why I said, whenever you have to formulate a model, you will have to work on 4-5 things. One is that it must have a syntax. It must have a social system. It must have principle of reaction. It must have support system, yes. And then it must have instructional and nurturant effects. All these things are to be discussed when I'm discussing concept attainment model, which I did not do when I was discussing Glazer's basic model. Why? Because I believe that basic model, teaching model of Glazer is not a model in true sense, but it helps in systematizing the whole process of teaching learning and makes the teacher effective. Let me come to syntax of concept attainment model now. First activity which we have to consider into syntax of concept attainment model is presentation of data. I told you that it must have a name. And after name of a concept, you must have examples and non-examples. So what we are going to do is, now, we have identified the concept, and on the basis of the concept, we have formulated certain examples and known examples. And what I do is, I make example, then I, in front of that, I try to write yes if it is example, write no if it is not example. Right, this is now support system. I can make use of a chart where I write example, against that I write yes, again I write another example or non-example, write yes or no accordingly. So I can make a chart and present it in front of the students. I can make a PPT also. But what is the support? That I have to make a example and then label it. Another example or non-example, label it. Another example non. So first phase is that I present in front of my students the examples, known examples, which are labeled. And what happens, before I go to the classroom, I tell that, I'm going to play with you. I have got a concept in my mind, and you will have to identify that concept. And to help you, I am going to give you some examples which will be labeled as yes. I'll be giving you some known examples which will be labeled as no. And on the basis of these yes or no, you try to understand, you try to retrieve, or you try to know which concept is there in my mind. So this is first phase of concept attainment model. Second phase of concept attainment model is testing of concept attainment model. Now, in the first phase, the whole process keeps on going till students start raising their hands and telling, yes, we have attained it. And teacher keep on giving examples, known example, till most of the students are raising their hands that they have attained the concept. And then comes the second stage, testing of concept attainment model. Now, again, I give them examples, known examples, maybe on chart, maybe on PPT, but now examples and known examples are not labeled. Now students are expected to label that which is example and which is not example, where we have to write yes, label yes, where we have to label no. When the student understand that this is a example of the concept, then he will label yes. If he thinks that this is not an example of the concept, he'll label no. So this is going to be the second phase, and second aspect of this phase would be asking them to generate examples of their own. Now they have many examples, known examples, which I presented them in first phase, and in second phase I presented example, known examples, but I did not label. Now in addition to those example, known examples which are presented in phase 1 and first aspect of phase 2, the students are going to generate some more examples and known examples. And here we assure that the students, they have understood or attained the concept which was there as an objective in the mind of the teacher. And third phase is analysis of the strategies. Every time when I was presenting first phase, I was presenting examples, known examples, the students were writing in their copies that which could be the concept in my mind. And when I used to give known example, they used to cut some hypothesis and used to add some more hypothesis. When I used to give second set of example, known example, they were again doing the same kind of thing, cutting some hypothesis, adding some more hypothesis. And the stage used to come when they used to attain the concept. Now this process is discussed with the teacher, that on first example I formulated these hypotheses, then second time I did this, and teacher tries to help them that you attained the concept at 6th level, you could have attained this concept at 4th. See, these are the gaps in your strategies. So, and why do we do this, the third phase? Because we want that next time when teacher is going to use this model, the students will take less time to understand the concept, and they start developing those kind of strategies in their mind, that how to categorize, how to hypothesize, how to reach to a generalization. Now this is what is syntax of model. What do we say syntax is? Model in operation. So first phase, second phase, third phase, all these help us to understand the model in operation. Social system. Now in social system, you'll find the teacher here chooses the problems, selects example, known examples, present example, known example. He encourages active participation, this warmth, friendly and competitive environment. This is how the teacher has to perform according to this model. Then principle of reaction, students formulate hypotheses, test them, and lastly analyze thinking strategies. So which steps they follow, the students follow, this is principle of reaction. And fourth aspect of model is support system. So charts or PPTs live with labeled examples, known examples, charts or PPTs with unlabeled example, known examples. This is support system. So now you have to differentiate. That support system is not chart or model. Support system is what you are going to do on the chart or on the PPT. That makes it a support system. And instructional and nurturant effect. Instructional effect, definitely concept attainment and corrects earlier concepts. But during the whole process of concept attainment model, add on which a student is to learn is training in inductive reasoning, because he's getting examples, known examples. On the basis of examples, more examples, he's trying to generalize. So inductive reasoning, sensitivity and awareness of alternative perspectives, because you have examples, known examples, you understand that this could be possible, this could be possible, this could be. So through that process, he is becoming very sensitive and aware of alternative perspective. This is all about concept attainment model. So let us review. We discuss in this presentation what is a model, what are models of teaching, and we also discuss two types of models of teaching in this video presentation. One is concept attainment model, and second is basic Glazer's model, which is helpful for all the teachers of all the subjects to make their teaching learning effective. Thank you so much. And I believe that, I hope that this video presentation would really help you to understand this concept in a right perspective. Thank you.